Okay, so let's just jump right in. We've all been told that to survive in this world just absolutely flooded with marketing, you have to build up these walls, right? You have to be skeptical, you have to fight back. But what if that entire approach is just wrong? What if the best defense isn't a defense at all?
I mean, really think about it. Do you ever feel just exhausted by it all? Like you're constantly on a high alert, trying to swat away messages coming from every single direction? If that sounds familiar, you've probably been fighting a battle of attrition, a battle you were never really meant to win.
So, let's talk about this wrong fight. We're going to start with the traditional defenses that pretty much all of us have been taught to use.
You know the drill. We're told to be skeptical, to be critical, to install ad blockers, distrust everything you read, and just harden your personal boundaries. And look, on the surface, that all sounds really smart, right? It sounds proactive, but there's a huge hidden cost.
Here's the thing. All of these defenses are just exhausting. They take up so much energy. Every single one adds to your cognitive load, which turns every potential choice into a little conflict in your brain. It's like you're trying to hold up this big, heavy shield all day long, and eventually, your arm's going to get tired, and that's the moment when influence slips right through.
But here is a totally different idea that just changes the entire game. This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of it. Marketing does not need to be resisted. It dissolves when architecture is clear. It doesn't need to be fought, it just vanishes. So what on earth does that even mean? What does a clear architecture actually look like?
And that brings us to the real antidote, a concept called structural clarity. And this isn't about building higher walls around yourself. It's about making sure your house is built on a really solid foundation to begin with.
So, what is structural clarity? Well, it's basically an awareness of the dynamics of a choice before you even get close to being influenced. It means you start to notice things like, how much mental energy is this decision actually asking from me? Does this choice even make sense with who I am? And importantly, am I feeling pressured right now? So, for instance, let's say you're about to buy a new laptop. Structural clarity isn't about knowing all the tech specs. It's about you noticing the pressure from a flash sale, or seeing that a slick ad is trying to make you feel like you'll be a more creative person if you buy that specific brand. It's like seeing the hidden scaffolding of a sales pitch before the pitch even starts.
And this slide makes a really important distinction. Clarity is not about brute force. It's not about having more willpower or stronger beliefs or being totally certain. It's actually a much quieter, more perceptive state. It's about being aware of the dynamics in the air. It's the difference between gritting your teeth to resist buying something and just simply noticing that a strong wind of urgency is trying to push you in one direction.
Okay, so to really understand why clarity is so powerful, we need to look at how influence actually gets its hooks into us in the first place. It's not through brute force. It's by finding and exploiting some very specific weaknesses. And here is the absolute key insight. Marketing doesn't really try to change what you like. Instead, it targets your uncertainty. Any little crack in your decision-making process. Maybe you're a bit fuzzy on the value, or the timing, or even your own identity. That becomes an open window for influence to just climb right through.
And this lays out the playbook perfectly. First, they find a point of uncertainty. Second, they place a load on it. They'll add some urgency or social pressure. Third, they narrow your options, so their choice seems like the only one that makes sense. And finally, they compress time, limited time offer, to stop you from actually thinking it through. Sound familiar? I bet it does.
Okay, so if that's the playbook that's being used, how do we know when we have structural clarity? What are the actual signals we should be looking for in ourselves?
This right here, this is your new checklist. You know you have clarity when you can pause without feeling any tension, when you can still see other alternatives, when time feels like it's on your side. Let's go back to that laptop example. You have clarity when you can just close the browser tab without feeling any anxiety, when you're still aware that other brands and models exist, and when your identity as a creative person doesn't feel like it depends on you making this purchase right now. See, these aren't feelings, they're the structural conditions of a clear decision.
And this really boils down to two completely different ways of making a decision. Over here on the left, you've got the open path of evaluation. It's calm, it's expansive, there's low pressure. This is the state where clarity lives. But on the right, you've got the funnel of narrowing. It's urgent, it's compressed, and it's super high pressure. That is where marketing always wants to push you, to force a choice. And this is the whole point. When you're in that state of clarity, that calm evaluation mode, marketing has nothing to latch onto. It's not that you're actively resisting it, you're just not engaging with it. The sales pitch, the urgency, the social proof, it all just passes right through because your internal structure is sound. There's nowhere for the pressure to land.
So why does all this matter so much? Well, because this is so much bigger than just buying stuff. This is a fundamental skill for navigating the entire modern world.
Think about it. The exact same playbook. Find uncertainty, place load, narrow options. It's used everywhere. In media stories, in political campaigns, in ideological arguments, and even just in everyday social pressure. Learning how to recognize and build your own structural clarity is about more than being a savvy shopper. It's really about protecting your own cognitive freedom.
And this brings us to one last really powerful idea. Let's compare structural clarity to something we're always told to use, critical thinking. The biggest difference, as you can see, is timing. Critical thinking usually kicks in after the pressure is already on you, and honestly, it often just adds more mental work as you try to argue your way out of it. But structural clarity, it operates before the pressure can even find a place to land. It removes the possibility of that mental load in the first place.
So let's just end on this powerful idea. Influence isn't some kind of magical force that we have to constantly go to war with. It's a parasitic process that needs an unclear, shaky architecture to survive. When you focus on building that clarity within yourself, you don't even need to fight, because influence ends precisely where architecture begins. So the only question left is, what does that change for you?